I based so much of my life on the concept we're talking about in today's episode, and that is if someone else wasn't happy, then I couldn't be happy. I can't be happy if you're not happy too. My life seemed to center around making other people happy, or more specifically, keeping them from being disappointed. Sometimes their disappointment or unhappiness or whatever they were feeling that I didn't like, that wasn't comfortable for me, sometimes it didn't even have anything to do with me, but I still would be scared and afraid that I would lose their approval or acceptance or love. I made it about me because I didn't know not to be any different. That was what I learned, that other people's feelings were my responsibility. Without knowing it, I clung to other people's approval of me, and when I wasn't sure I had it 100%, I tried harder to gain it. My little sponge of a brain made note of every disappointing look, every minus sign behind an A, and it pointed out every time I felt like someone thought I could have done better, and then it told me I still wasn't good enough. So then I grew into an adult whose brain tells me that someone just gave me a disappointing look. It criticizes every minor mistake, and it echoes every word that says I missed the mark again and that I'm still not good enough. But is this really happening? Are people really disapproving and criticizing and judging me like I imagined? And if I think they are, how does this cause me to act? Does your internal dialogue sound something like, if they're happy, then I'm happy, or when they're okay, then I'll feel okay? Do you fear disappointing someone like I did and hurting their feelings, so you adjust what you do or say? Do you obsess over making sure everybody is taken care of, so much so that maybe you forget to figure out what you need? Have you said to yourself, I don't even know who I am anymore? I work a lot with people who tell me stories about how it makes them feel good to know they've gone out of their way to make someone's day, to make them happy. And then in the next breath, they talk about how frustrated and resentful they are because no one ever reciprocates. They feel taken advantage of and unappreciated. They're caught in this cycle of doing things for others to make the other person happy, not being recognized for it, and then being super unhappy themselves with the lack of appreciation and approval. This creates the cycle because then they do even more things for others to try and get the approval they think they really want and that they think comes from outside of them. But consider this. If you depend on someone else for your happiness and they stopped being happy or took away whatever it was they gave you that made you happy, such as their relationship with you, now where do you find your happiness? With someone else? This keeps us always seeking outside of ourselves for something that must come from within. And I say, in order for you to be happy, for anyone to be happy, two things need to happen. You have to know how to create it for yourself, independent of anyone or anything, and you have to choose it. How we create happiness for ourselves without falling into the people-pleasing trap of, I'm only happy when everyone else is happy, is what we're talking about in this episode. I'm going to share with you how this behavior traps you, and it actually traps the other person as well. Oh, ouch. Ready? Let's dig in. In Daniel Amen's 2022 book called You, Happier, you only have to open the front cover to read that Americans are the unhappiest they've been since the Great Depression. Unhappiness is associated with heart disease, premature aging, weight gain, damage to the immune system, addictions, depression, and memory issues, which all lead to a harder, shorter life. The cover goes on to say, while unhappiness can literally kill you, you have an opportunity to create consistent joy, even when it seems like the world is crumbling around you. My hope is this episode will help you create more consistent happiness and joy in your life through the info and tools that I'm sharing. Stay tuned till the end where I'm giving you a powerful exercise that you can start doing today. One of the hardest things we ever have to do is to allow. How often do you allow yourself to rest and relax, to have fun, to laugh and dance and be silly, or to do nothing, to take a vacation and not work? And this goes for happiness as well. We have a hard time allowing ourselves to be happy, feeling happy without rules or limitations or parameters. We put all these stipulations on our happiness, and typically it's based on the happiness of others. If they're not okay, then I can't be okay. And this is a devastating trap. So, how does this trap us? As people pleasers, we typically can't be happier than someone else. I feel bad because they don't have it as good as me, and so I diminish my happiness. For example, you're excited to share about something cool that happened to you, but you realize it might make the other person feel sad or jealous, so you hold back to protect their emotions for them instead of allowing them the opportunity to be happy for you and work through their own feelings. So this is part of the trap. Another part is I put all my efforts into making other people happy, and then when they aren't, or they leave my life, like I touched on earlier, where does my happiness come from then? This trap of wanting others to be happy before I can be happy causes me to neglect my personal needs. People pleasers often ignore their own needs, desires, and well-being to satisfy others. This neglect can lead to burnout, stress, and physical and emotional exhaustion. I know this personally. I ended up in the emergency room due to the extreme measures I was taking to make someone else happy. This disregard of our own needs over and over again can result in a diminished sense of worth, and like I discovered, it can be devastating to our health. This trap of wanting others to be happy can also cause us to lose our identity. Constantly focusing on making others happy can cause us to struggle with even recognizing our own preferences, values, and goals because we're always externally focused on them. And therefore, that's why so many women in particular, say to me, I don't even know who I am anymore. We can become overly dependent on others for direction and validation, and this all can lead to feelings of emptiness and confusion about who we are and what we truly want in life. This trap also leads us to resentment and frustration. People pleasers get satisfaction from helping others, but they can also become resentful when their efforts aren't reciprocated or appreciated. This resentment builds up over time, leading to frustration and a sense of being taken for granted. This also can cause health issues because when we stuff things down, we actually build up toxins in our body and we become like this pressure cooker. Not expressing our emotions is not healthy, and then relationships become one-sided and emotionally draining. When we look to create our happiness through others, it's difficult to build authentic relationships. The fear of conflict and rejection leads us to agree to things that we don't want to do or to hide our true feelings. This lack of honesty is a sign of poor boundaries and limits meaningful connections with others. This lack of boundaries from the people pleaser also disrespects the boundaries of the other person, and I'm going to go more into that in a bit. When we look to others to help create our happiness, this is crossing a personal boundary of emotional autonomy. Emotional autonomy is your ability to maintain your own emotional state independent of the emotions of others. Tying our happiness to the happiness of others, we give up our emotional autonomy and we allow external factors to dictate us. This creates a dependence on external validation for our happiness. Now, speaking of boundaries, waiting for others to be happy for you to be happy, or worse yet, depending on their happiness to make you happy, is crossing a huge boundary. You're creating a trap not only for you, but for the other person too. And let's look at how you're trapping the other person with this behavior. The first way is you relying on someone else for your happiness or any emotion creates dependency. Obviously, you're dependent on them, but they can also become dependent on you to do things to make them happy and to take care of their emotional well being. You become responsible for their feelings. This creates a very unhealthy dynamic where the other person relies too much on you to feel good. This is codependency. Over time, the other person might even struggle to manage their own emotions and needs independently from you, which keeps them from their own personal growth and journey. Another way that it traps them is you relying on others for your feelings imposes pressure on them. Because you're relying on them to feed your emotions, the other person might feel unspoken pressure to appear happy or satisfied even when they aren't, but they know you depend on it. This can lead them to hide their true feelings. They avoid expressing their genuine emotions or needs because they don't want to upset you. They realize that they have to act happy in order for you to be okay, to make you comfortable. And the last way is that your happiness coming from others not only creates resentment and frustration for you, but it creates it in them as well. Having to always act a certain way around you so they don't upset you or make you feel like your efforts to make them happy aren't appreciated, this is exhausting. There's also a feeling that you don't trust them to speak what's on their mind. So they become resentful and frustrated. And by the way, if you haven't already figured it out, they actually don't appreciate the dependency and pressure because it doesn't allow them to be who they really are. I read a Reddit post recently about how this people pleasing behavior of relying on others for our happiness is actually annoying. The people commenting were saying that this behavior turns other people into projects, and nobody wants to feel like a project, right? Or like they need to be fixed. What happens if they can't be happy or don't want my help? Can I still be with them and trust their decision when they decline my help, or do I take it personally? Am I able to like the relationship I have with them without feeling like my value in that relationship is only in my ability to help them? It's also annoying to others because people pleasers are wishy-washy. We say we're open to anything, but really we're only open to anything in order to be liked and to fit in. This is frustrating because the other person is afraid if they do something you don't like or that hurts you, you won't speak up. You'll pretend like everything is fine just to be accepted. And then they have to figure out if you're being genuine or not. And they end up walking on eggshells around you because they don't know what's the truth. If you recognize yourself relying on others in order to feel better, to be able to feel happy or joyful, what can you do to break free from this trap? I have 3 things to share with you. Before I go into those, though, I want to say, I know you're not doing this on purpose, and I want you to recognize that too. This was a behavior that you learned when you were young in order to feel accepted and to fit in. It was a coping mechanism you developed, and it became a habit in your brain. You most likely behave this way now automatically. As I've said before in other episodes, the beautiful thing is that your brain has neuroplasticity, and that means it can learn new behaviors. Repeated enough times, the new behavior becomes the habit, and it replaces the habit that you no longer want to keep. To create this new type of habit takes 2 things: awareness, which you now have listening to this episode if you didn't have it before, and desire to change. Well, actually, maybe 4 things. It also takes commitment and action. So, where can you start? A place to start in creating the desire for things to be different is to ask yourself these questions. Are these the type of relationships I want to have, that I want to build? Ones where the other person has to hide their feelings or where I feel responsible for how they feel, even when I maybe have nothing to do with the situation? Do I want to hold on to resentment and frustration because someone's not reciprocating something that I did for them that most likely they did not ask me to do? Do I want to build that codependence where the other person doesn't feel free to express who they are for fear they might upset me? So start there. Ask those questions and answer them honestly. Do you have the desire to break free of this unhealthy trap, this people-pleasing behavior? That's the place to start. Another step is to seek support. Here's a little tough love. Stop worrying about being anxious or depressed or unhappy and start working on it. I don't mean saying you really want to do something about it. I mean, take aligned action. Take a course, get into a support group like Codependence Anonymous, hire a therapist or a coach. Make it a goal to get 1% better every day around one thing, not 5 or 10 different things, one thing. Codependence Anonymous is a fantastic place to get support. There are groups all over the US. I'm not sure about other countries, but all over the US. Some meet in person, some meet online. It's a great organization where you can learn how to be self-sourced, autonomous, and not rely on others for how you feel. And it's free. I went fairly religiously every Monday evening for 3 years. Message me if you have questions about CODA. I'm happy to chat with you about it. Or get support from a therapist or a coach. I think the best guidance you can get is from someone who's been there. And I've definitely experienced everything I talked about in this episode. I understand how trapped you can feel in this behavior and how hard it is to see a way out of the trap. But there is a way. I'm proof of that. The third way to turn the people-pleasing ship around is this. Start listening to and following your own voice. We've listened to other people's voices for so long, maybe all of our life, that we don't even know what our own voice sounds like. And I don't mean that in the practical sense of the phrase. I mean it in the way that when we hear a whisper, we question where it came from. We're so used to being directed by voices outside of us, that is, other people, that when we hear a whisper inside, we doubt it. So one place to start to get out of this trap is to start listening and following your own voice. Figure out who you are, what you like, what you want, what you need, and start letting that voice, your own voice, lead you. As I said at the beginning of the episode, I've had many women say to me, I don't even know who I am anymore, and I get it. When we've defaulted for so long to making sure everyone else is okay and happy, we've forgotten along the way that we're a somebody too. We've forgotten to ask ourselves what we need to be okay and to be happy. But it's never too late to start. What do you need to be okay? What do you need to be happy? Here's a great way to figure that out, and it's super simple. Are you ready? Make a list. Really, give yourself 15 to 30 minutes and make a list. Make a list of everything you can think of that makes or would make you happy. Isn't your happiness worth 30 minutes of your time? If it's hard to think of things to write on the list, which it might be because, again, you've been directing all your attention externally for so long, maybe all of your life. So if it's hard to think of things, start by writing things on the list that you don't want in your life anymore, or that you don't like that are currently happening, such as you're being inactive. Think of it kind of like your bitch or complaint list. Do not ask for input from anyone else. This is your list. Allow yourself to write down all the crap you're tolerating in others and in yourself. What things would you like to be different or to change? Make this list on the left side of the paper. Get 20 or more things on that portion of the list. Less clutter, no fighting, stop eating out of control, feel lazy, always tired, never do anything fun. Let yourself go wild with all the shit you've been tolerating in your life, all of it. Maybe it takes more than one sheet of paper, that's okay. Then on the right side of the page, write the opposite or what you want instead, what you'd love if you had it all your way. Be creative here and don't allow your logical brain to take over, saying, well, my spouse would never want to do that, or people will think I'm crazy, or that costs too much money. Don't let those things keep you from writing it down. And here's some more tough love. Those are all excuses. Stop limiting yourself with the opinions of other people. This is the exact reason you don't have everything you want in your life right now, because you've allowed external factors to keep you from going after it. Maybe less clutter on your list turns into what would make you happy is to hire someone to help you with the clutter. For everything you don't want, ask yourself, what would I love instead? And then write that as your answer. Be specific. Write specific things that you can take action on. The key is not to just make the two lists, but to start implementing the things in the right-hand column immediately. Maybe you take action on one of those things every day or every week. Challenge yourself. Make it fun. The idea is to take action. Create your own happiness. And the beautiful thing about this list is you are listening to your voice, not looking outside you to see what others' opinions or options are. The bottom line is that happiness does not come from outside of you. Yes, happy moments will come from other people, but deep, long-lasting, unconditional happiness comes from within. You create it. Do your behaviors on a daily basis support you being happy? I'm not saying that you'll never feel happy because of what someone else did or said. Maybe you have someone in your life that tells jokes and makes you laugh like no one else can. This is happiness, right? What I'm saying is to not solely rely on others' happiness or on making sure they're happy before you're happy. There's a big distinction. A key to happiness is accepting situations and people as they are, rather than on how you think they should be, and then making the best of that. Your thoughts create your feelings, and your feelings create your behaviors, and your behaviors create your outcomes. So if you don't have the outcomes you want in your life, look back at your thoughts and remember that the majority of your thoughts are learned and are habitual. You think the same thoughts today that you thought yesterday. So if you want to create more happiness in your life, you have to separate yourself from your thoughts and realize that you're not your thoughts and that you can create new ones, but you are only the thinker of your thoughts. Your ability to be able to separate yourself from this is your key to feeling happy on a daily basis. What are you implementing from this episode today? Reach out to me. I'd love to hear. And if you don't currently receive my emails, I invite you to join the list so you stay up to date on everything that's happening. I'm creating a new resource that will be available midsummer, and it's going to be life-changing. I don't think you're going to want to miss it, but of course, I'm a little biased. But go to masteringmidlifewithheidi.com to start receiving my emails. You can sign up there. I'll close with a quote by Dr. Daniel Amen, someone who has studied the brain and happiness for over 30 years. He knows what he's talking about. He says, "The brain is a sneaky organ. We all have weird thoughts that no one should hear. Don't believe every stupid thing you think. If people were convicted on their thoughts, everyone would be in jail." I love it. Don't believe every stupid thing you think. Thanks for listening. Talk to you soon. Thank you for spending time with me today. To continue on your journey of mastering midlife, click the link in the description to download my free guide. 20 ways to say no without feeling guilty. See you in the next episode.